All right. Running back. The easiest position of them all, especially this year, where everyone's been injury-free and there hasn't been any surprises. Yeah, nothing like that. Nothing like that at all. No, of course not. It is time. It is Wednesday. We are here talking running backs, week 7. What's up, everyone? My name is Matt Savoca. I'm here with Nick Lepri. You know him, Notorious Fantasy. And we are talking the running back position, going to our rankings, to our tiers, using the Stokastic projections because those run for the first time on Tuesday night. So we use those same projections, the same ones that have won people literally millions of dollars in the DFS space. And I just got so excited that I hit my space bar and turned off our banner. We do have to talk about that banner at some point today because we have another no-brainer offer we got to talk about. It really is a no-brainer. But before we get into all that, I got to say good morning to my co-host, Nick. How are you this morning?
I'm doing excellent this morning. I'm very excited to talk about the running back position. And like you said, off the rip of this thing, you know, the running back position has been super easy this year. We haven't had to deal with any significant injuries. Really, it's just been smooth sailing. It's week 7 now. Everyone's healthy, right? Yeah, that's how it goes.
Everyone's healthy. Nothing weird at all. Ultimately, I just think that running back is always, every single year, a roll with the punches situation. And it is also kind of a war of attrition, right? You know, people break down because running backs are the ones holding the football and they're the ones getting tackled. They're the ones most likely to get injured, and it's hard to predict. Ultimately, we have some players at the top when we get into tier 1 that you'll see that we all expected to be there. Round 1 and 2 draft picks. You know, the order of it is a little weird sometimes. But then we've got 2 I saw at the very top that kind of made my eyes bug out of my head. One, similar to last week, is based on a particular injury in his own team's backfield. But another one, we just have to admit at this point that the volume is there and the matchup is there. I'm talking about number 2, Josh Jacobs, going against the Houston Texans. He's really the one that stands out to me because we had Ramondre Stevenson in tier 1 last week with Damian Harris out, going against Cleveland. Once again, they're going against Chicago in a very low total game. We're still putting Stevenson tier 1 and arguably the number 1 running back, but it's Jacobs at 2 that feels like a new addition here.
Yeah, it does feel like a new addition, but honestly, it feels right at this point with Josh Jacobs being ranked this high. They go up against the Texans this week. The Texans defense is obviously far from amazing. Josh Jacobs in half PPR was the RB1 in week 4 up against the Broncos. Country, let's ride. And then week 5 up against the Chiefs prior to the bye. He was running back number 3. So things are looking great for Josh Jacobs. He was a guy that I'd assume most people were a little bit nervous to draft because of the McDaniels, I believe his name is, becoming the head coach. It's confusing because there's Mike McDaniel and Josh McDaniels. Gets a little confusing. But Josh Jacobs, we thought it might be running back by committee. It's clearly not at this point, and Jacobs is in a position to smash any given week now, especially up against the Texans defense this week.
I love it. I love it. I see nothing wrong with that assessment. Josh Jacobs isn't always the most efficient, but honestly, I've seen some of the best breakaway runs, some of the best evaded tackles of his entire career in this offense, especially with it more spread out because of the number of passing weapons they have. I actually think that helps the running back position. And ultimately, we've seen an opportunity share that rivals the Saquon Barkleys, the Austin Ecklers, the Leonard Fournettes. And so he's all good to go in tier 1. I see Just Bob. I know you hit the like button on the way in, but I also noticed that Just Bob has a Dolphins logo. Look at you converting people left and right, because I'm almost positive that it wasn't a Dolphins logo just a few short weeks ago. And then we got to shout out this trade here. Ramondre Stevenson, Eno Benjamin, Jamal Williams for Mike Evans and Dameon Pierce. I think you won this trade in the long term. In the short term, though, it looks like a pretty fair option, and I think you might see more points from the left-hand side this week.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I think long-term, obviously, you're looking to win your league, so it doesn't matter, like, necessarily week 7. I know it says week 6 on the graphic. I fixed it for all the other tiers. I know I'm an idiot, but yeah, Ramondre Stevenson, Eno Benjamin, and Jamal Williams might all smash this week, but when you're in the playoffs, how much Eno Benjamin are we going to get? Not very much. How much Jamal Williams are we going to get? Not very much. But we're going to see a bunch of Mike Evans and Dameon Pierce. Pierce has taken over as the RB1. Mike Evans has been on a rocky road because of the fact that Tom Brady hasn't been playing the best. But I do think by the time we're in the fantasy playoffs, Mike Evans is going to be potentially a top 5 receiver every single game.
Yep. I still think there is so much ceiling, so much floor potential that you ultimately have to say that Mike Evans is an every week starter. And there's a level of confidence there that just doesn't exist for many more than, say, 8 to 10 other wide receivers. So I like the trade. I ultimately think that you'll come out on top. And Dameon Pierce, your boy, I think we'll see him closer, creeping up towards this tier. Maybe not tier 1, but certainly tier 2 soon enough. Anyone else stick out to you in a positive, negative way when you look at the matchups this week in tier 1?
Yeah, I like Christian McCaffrey even up against the Bucks defense. We actually saw that Najee Harris had a I'm surprised he played good in that game, if I'm being honest with you. He actually played pretty decent in that game. Now, my only worry about McCaffrey is that if they're talking about trading him, why are they not reducing his workload so he doesn't die out there? But it doesn't seem like they want to do that. So we're going to keep seeing Christian McCaffrey at a high workload. He's been a top 10 running back 4 out of 6 games this season. You just got to keep rolling him out there and assume that he's going to finish inside the top 5.
Yep. And the opportunity value is there for a player like McCaffrey. I was playing this game, doing a thought experiment with my friends and trying to figure out which teams he would go to where his value would significantly tank. And you know what makes me sad? If the Bills traded for Christian McCaffrey, his value would go way down.
Yep.
It would be an amazing offense, but his fantasy value would go way down.
Yeah, it would be great for the Bills. It'd be awful for him. I mean, the Bills last week they did use Singletary, so that was great to see. But it seems like unless they're in a really big game, they're just spreading the ball out a bunch. I don't know. I would be pretty worried about McCaffrey was on the Bills, even though realistically thinking about it, that's like the best case scenario in real life. It is
From
the
a real
worst
life,
case
yeah.
scenario for fantasy football. Like the Bills just don't dump it off enough. I guess maybe if they had McCaffrey, they would just change their game plan completely. But who knows if that would actually, like if Josh Allen is willing to dump the ball off a million times when he could just throw an 80-yard bomb down the field and just score
Right.
in 5 seconds.
Right. Yeah, everyone else is just getting the volume where you probably, if you have 2 of these people, great job. You had a great draft. Hope your wide receivers and tight ends are good enough. But ultimately, I think we should move on to tier 2 because that's where the tough decisions start to get. We know how it goes for you guys. And we have a lot of players. This is where we call it the great flattening, right? The projections start to get closer and closer, especially if you like round our projections. We have it down to like 2 decimal points over at stokastic.com. But if you just get it, if you look at the floor and the ceiling as well as the median projection, you start to see a grouping of these players. I'm shocked to see Nick Chubb this low at 17. I get it. Like he has to have his usual efficiency game. He has to have touchdowns, but come on, he's been incredible this year. And then Breece Hall, if someone told me he'd be ranked RB 13 without any injury to Michael Carter, and just because the Jets running game is #good, I'm not sure I would have believed you 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, we all kind of knew it was coming, but the question was, when was that going to happen, right? Was it going to be even this year? Because I was kind of worried, like, hey, Michael Carter looked good enough to where he could have kind of fed off, whatever the fuck word I'm trying to use there, just kind of pushed off, stiff-armed Breece Hall backwards. But the guy I want to talk about here, I like Breece Hall a ton, is Aaron Jones. At some point, I understand RB16 is fine for where we rank him because like once you get past RB17 where Nick Chubb is, it gets a little bit more dicey. It gets dicier and dicier as you get further back. Aaron Jones just continues to disappoint. I was a big fan of Aaron Jones going into the season. This truly is a 50-50 split. This man had 19 rushing yards against the Jets last week. He's been a top 18 running back in half PPR twice this year, and he's been running back 32 or worse 3 out of 6 games. Look, his trade value is basically nothing. This Packers team, maybe they will figure it out. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe this is the game against the Commanders. But I do slightly worry that Aaron Jones just can't be a top 12 guy and a guy you can't really rely on. Like, you're going to have to play him, but I don't think you can ever expect greatness out of him at this point.
What a bummer. I thought he was going to have career high targets, receptions, and receiving yards this year.
So did
I. And A.J. Dillon isn't even succeeding either. I got offered A.J. Dillon for Devin Singletary straight up in a half PPR league, and I was like, I don't see any upside here. I don't see any upside in Aaron Jones. I see more, obviously, if I'm just comparing Jones to Dillon, but 16. I see much more for Chubb. We know he's a significantly better player. Montgomery going against the Patriots, that one is okay for me. And let's hope we get Jonathan Taylor back on the field. Is this really a hedge for him? Because if he's playing, he's got to be in tier one, at least closer to Mixon than the middle of this pack.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if they use Jonathan Taylor like they use Deion Jackson, then Jonathan
Right.
Taylor could be like a top 5 back. I mean, he's been a top 24 back twice this season. He was the RB2 week 1, RB23 week 3 against the Chiefs. His usage has been pretty similar every game. It's just he hasn't been super productive. The offensive line did look better for Deion Jackson last week. Jonathan Taylor's missed already 2 games. This would be the 3rd game if he misses. I think he's going to play. I'm obviously going to play him, but I do understand why you would have him ranked outside of the top 8-ish running backs because, I mean, those top 8 guys seem to be like clear studs or 7 guys. So I get why he's in tier 2.
Joe Mixon is the one where if you look at opportunity value, expected fantasy points, where if you haven't heard me talk about expected fantasy points, really all I'm talking about are rushes, targets, where those occurred on the field, when they occurred in the game, and how many fantasy points we would expect a player to get. And then we compare what actually happened on the field and we can look at it as an efficiency metric. But expected fantasy points is essentially the value of a player's opportunity. That's why you hear me say things like opportunity value so much. Joe Mixon's opportunity value is as good as any player in the NFL. He is just drastically underperforming expectation. It's really tough to see. Zeke is one that I feel like we have aggressively projected right now. If he has this good of a matchup, then I probably like Tony Pollard. It's the Detroit Lions factor that's really pushing Zeke up in our rankings.
Yeah, I mean, the Detroit Lions defense couldn't stop me or you if we went to go run the ball, so it's not really that surprising. The one guy I did want to talk about, you kind of graced over him, is David Montgomery. We just saw the Patriots lock up Nick Chubb, who might be the best running back in the NFL. I'm not as confident in David Montgomery as these rankings seem to be. Now, he's going to get the carries. He's going to get opportunities. Could he finish as a top 24 back? Definitely. But I don't think I'd have him at RB15. I think that's a little too high. The matchup really does concern me. The Patriots defense the last 3 weeks has been unbelievable.
Let's see. In 2022 defensive DVOA rankings, New England is up to number 7 in the NFL in total defense, number 6 against the pass and against the rush. They have been worse. I will say that. If you just parse out rush versus pass, listen to these splits here. New England is this right? Wow. 6th against the pass, 26th against the rush.
That sounds, well, maybe that's just the first 3 games, right? Because the last 3 games, they've been really good against the run, at least from what I was looking at.
Okay.
But yeah, I think,
that's
look,
fair.
Dave Montgomery's going to get the opportunity. I don't doubt that. They're going to fucking feed the man the ball. But how much can he do with that? I mean, we just saw them lock up Nick Chubb. Like, Nick Chubb is significantly better than Dave Montgomery. So maybe I'm a little too cautious, I guess, right? Maybe I just saw one bad game out of Chubb and it made me panic against the Patriots. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. We didn't even talk about your boy, Dameon Pierce. Remember how I said he was going to be creeping up towards tier 1? I would consider 11 creeping up towards tier 1. So if you want to wax poetic about him as we finish up this tier and move on to tier 3, you're happy to do so.
Of course. I love my boy, Dameon Pierce. If anyone was here in fucking May or whatever the draft was, April, I was talking about since then. So RB12, 3 games in a row, top 12 running back in half PPR, RB10, 6, and 12. Last week, he saw his career high in the NFL of carries with 26 for 99 yards, 1 short off of 100, 5 targets, 3 receptions, 14 receiving yards, a score. Now, this wasn't technically last week because they were on a bye last week, but you get what I mean. In week 5 up against the Jaguars. Now they get the Raiders. The Raiders defense, definitely not as good as they were last season. According to Fantasy Pros, they're a 2-star matchup against the running back. I think that's a little messed up. I think the running back gets a better chance than that. I think.
Oh, we really doing that? We're really using the big. We're giving some shout out to the biggest site in the industry with a little free
no free ads. I said it's incorrect. That's fake news. All right. 2 stars. That's wrong. Their defense is not very good against the run. I think Dameon Pierce is going to not struggle at all. And look, he's the bright spot of this offense. Brandon Cooks, look, I liked him in redraft, but he seems like it's not the same Brandon Cooks. Dameon Pierce is that guy. Keep rolling out Dameon Pierce with confidence. I think top 12 makes a lot of sense. And I think, like you said, he could creep up into that tier 1 category next week.
Fair enough. All right, we'll move on to tier 3. I do want to shoot some stats your way here. As you mentioned, the last 3 weeks, New England has been on a tear defensively. They are number 2 in Football Outsiders pass DVOA defensively, and number 10 against the run. Las Vegas, 27th against the pass, 5th against the run. Dameon Pierce may have to get it done in the dump off passing game, which he's very capable of doing, by the way. As we hit 18 to 28, let the viewers absorb these rankings a little bit. Let's go to the questions. Good time as any as we hit the 10:20 spot on the Eastern Seaboard here. Good morning, guys. So happy to see so many friendly faces in here. Ron the Goat, just Bob, we mentioned before. I saw a trade that I wanted to talk about. Trade idea, Gordon for Lockett.
I'm doing
Melvin
that.
Gordon?
Yes, I'm doing
if
that.
You can do that. My gosh.
Yeah. Look, I don't know what happened with Melvin Gordon. I thought initially they benched him because of the injury, and then Hackett says they didn't. Like, Gordon might get traded. Did you see Gordon's tweets from the other day? After that game, he was liking all these tweets like, please trade Melvin Gordon away from Denver and all this stuff. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I saw that he was liking tweets from people in the fantasy industry too. Like that were talking about how Melvin Gordon should be getting more touches. It didn't make any sense. Yeah, it was always disheartening when you have a player on your roster and they're just liking tweets like that are basically saying save me.
Free Melvin
Blink
Gordon.
twice if you're okay, Melvin Gordon. Question about Olave and Tyquan Thornton, who, by the way, I think Tyquan Thornton is going to be a thing in the second half of the season. Guys, he played his first NFL game and caught 2 touchdowns on the Patriots. I get it. Bailey Zappi's looking better than expected, but this isn't exactly a world beater offense. And suddenly they get Tyquan Thornton, a second round pick, by the way, 6'2", 220 pounds, fast for his size. They need some speed size. You know, I'm not saying he's like AJ Brown all of a sudden, but could you imagine the Patriots offense with an actual playmaker on the outside? Even Jacoby Myers would look actually better from a fantasy perspective. I still think you're going Olave. Olave is the only player in the NFL with 700 air yards already, and he didn't even play last week.
Yeah, I think Olave is the better player. Obviously, Thornton even scored a touchdown in his first preseason game, I believe, up against the Giants. Thornton has looked incredible. So yeah, I would definitely want to pick up Thornton, and I have Thornton listed on Notorious Fantasy as a start this week. A lot of people have him ranked in like the 40s or the 50s. Said, fuck it, he's a top 32 receiver this week. I like his upside in that game, and I think the Zappineta Bailey Zappi is actually better than Mac Jones right now. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to have a better career because I think they will go back to Mac Jones, but Olave does have a bunch of upside. Michael Thomas is just in injury limbo constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Jarvis Landry's banged up. Who else they have? Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway. Olave's role is very clear in this offense. The problem is they play Thursday, so it's not as much of a lock that he plays, but I think he will.
Well, it's kind of nice, right? We'll know.
Yeah, we'll know at least early in the week.
Uh-huh. So for that, I do think if he plays, you play him with Chris Olave. Ooh, DeAndre Hopkins or Christian Kirk, his former teammate. Man, I think I'm going with Hopkins.
Yeah, I'm going with Hopkins as well. And again, I don't dislike Christian Kirk. I'm just going to go with DeAndre Hopkins. Christian Kirk had 2 bad games. They bounced back last week. D-Hop is literally 100% healthy. He's not off the PEDs anymore, so maybe that'll hurt his play. But DeAndre Hopkins is in for a pretty solid showing against the Saints, in my opinion.
Let's see. So in terms of implied team totals, how many points does Vegas expect them to score? It appears the Cardinals are expected to score just slightly more. And Jacksonville, matchup against the Giants defense that has been a little bit better than expected. By a hair, I'm going DeAndre Hopkins. All right, let's talk about tier 3. Actually, I want to get to one more thing here because I want to talk about this no-brainer bet. I know. You see a banner at the top of your screen and you just start to roll your eyes, so I won't just drag it along, okay? We have a really great offer from our friends over at BetMGM that is new because the NHL has just started up. If you bet $10 on any team, and if any team scores a goal tonight, you get $200 in free bets. It's that simple. Just going to lay it all out. $10 on a team. Any team scores a goal in the NHL, you get $200. Last time I'll say it, and then I'll move on. You bet $10 on a money line bet. Any favorite, any underdog, anyone you want. And if anyone in the NHL scores a goal, you win $200 in free bets. I think it is one of the coolest offers that anyone, any platform has offered. I think is legitimately great. I wish I could take advantage of it. And so I legitimately want you guys to as well. Hit up Nick at Notorious Fantasy or me at Draftaholic. If you have any questions at all, our DMs are open. It is a great time to get in there. Any money line, you can bet on football, college football, the NBA, but if anyone in the NHL scores a goal, you get $200 in free bets. Pretty cool stuff. Thank you to BetMGM for being a new sponsor over here. Now we can hit up tier 3, 18 through 28. Let's see what's going on here. What stands out to you as you look at these 11 players?
Yeah, the biggest standout is J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins had one good game this year. Besides that, RB 45, 55, 56, and he's banged up. Do you feel worried about J.K. Dobbins? I have him significantly lower than this. RB
I have basically Drake really penciled in right here. I think it's fine to put Dobbins here if he plays, but that knee tightened up. He didn't play in the second half. I think it's wishful thinking to put him in the top 24.
I agree. And I don't even know how comfortable I am with Drake. Like, Drake does this every year when he's like the backup. He has like one good game, a few good games. They're sprinkled all around. I don't know. But I do completely agree with you. We should not have Dobbins ranked this high. He is way too risky, far too risky at this point.
Gotcha. So at that point, you just play players with higher floors, or are you still considering Dobbins? Let's say you're in bye week hell. You're projected to lose by 10 points. You know, it says on a little probability thing that you're a 30% favorite. Is a player like Dobbins worth starting because of the ceiling potential, because he is efficient when he gets the ball and he could score touchdowns, or is it just not worth it at all and you'd rather just take the floor? Let's say a player like, I don't know, Najee Harris and is likely 10 to 12 points.
Yeah, I'd rather play Harris 100%. J.K. Dobbins is just in too bad of a spot. Like, he might literally score 1 point. 2 points. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. He might not even play. So I think I'd rather just go with Najee Harris. And then the other guy I wanted to point out here, well, it's two guys because they're on the same team, ETN and Robinson. At this point, I think you have to have ETN over Robinson. What do you think about that?
I do too. I just flip them. Maybe both of them are outside the top 24, but if I'm going to have one at 25 and one at 27, I'm putting Travis ETN ahead of Robinson there. Oh, I just got a message, guys. It is first time BetMGM users. And if you want to take advantage of it, the way to do it is click the link in the video description below. That's how you do it. Again, we're here if you want to message us. It's a really cool time to get into the action over there. AJ Dillon at 20, Jeff Wilson at 19. How do you know to bench Jeff Wilson against the Falcons? And then Garoppolo, of course, succeeds in that game environment. Wilson gets benched because he fumbles. It gets returned for a touchdown. It was just a really bad beat if you're a Jeff Wilson fantasy starter.
Yeah, that was a bad beat. Miso asked for like a recap, so I'm just gonna scroll back.
Let's do it.
Just click through. But yeah, I agree with you on Jeff Wilson. That was a tough scene for him. But like, I don't think the benching means he's done, right? Like, they don't have the backups. Like, for instance, if Tyrion Davis-Price and Elijah Mitchell were healthy, then yeah, he's probably done for. But they don't really have anyone else to go to. What are they going to hand the ball to Kyle Juszczyk 15 times? Probably not. So I'd still be comfortable playing him. So real quick to recap for everyone who was not here since the beginning, RBs 1 through 7 are Stevenson, Jacobs, Henry, Eckler, McCaffrey, Fournette, and Barkley. Those are tier 1 running backs. You're starting all these guys. You don't even have to think about it. You just play them. Then the tier 2 running backs are Mixon, Elliott, Kamara, Pierce, Walker, Hall, Taylor, Montgomery, Jones, and Chubb. I think we both feel pretty comfortable that Chubb is a little too low in the rankings and that Zeke's a little too high. Would you agree with that?
I would not have Zeke in this tier. I'd have him in tier 3, right around 18.
Okay. And the next tier here is the tier that we were on. So we'll just keep going on here. Real quick, I wanted to talk about Raheem Mostert. I think Raheem Mostert might be in for a bigger game than we have him ranked at, but I think his ranking at RB18 is pretty fair. How do you feel about him against the Steelers?
Steelers defense, I was ready to call them bad. And then they face Tampa Bay without arguably their two best players in TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick. They don't have Pat Fryermuth on the offensive side, and then they come out with a win. I get it. There's
Yeah,
some issues over in Tampa Bay, but I guess they're a
marital
tougher
issues.
matchup than I thought. That's kind of how I feel. I
Yeah,
don't have any confidence in Raheem Mostert.
you don't. Okay, I just think that Chase Edmonds, his ass is grass. It feels like he just doesn't. He just doesn't get it. Like it's terrible, but it doesn't seem like he gets it. So I like Mostert's ranking. And then someone brought up Swift in the chat. What do you think about Swift this week if he plays? He's got to be higher, right?
I think he's like, this is a hedge, right? That it's if he plays, he's going to get you running back 4 because he broke some huge runs, or he's going to be running back 34 because Jamal Williams vultured a touchdown. And he ended up with 6.5 points on a couple catches. So I actually think running back 23 is a fair ranking. It just doesn't encapsulate his true range of outcomes. His ceiling is better than Dobbins, Pollard, Dillon, Wilson, Mostert. His ceiling is tier 1 in a way that the other players, maybe Travis Etienne in a perfect world or Clyde Edwards-Helaire can match. But if you're looking for a top 5 running back week from one of these players, I don't think you can do much better than Swift. It's
Agreed.
just that he has a low floor as well.
Yeah, I mean Jamal with 2 A's Williams also continues to vulture touchdowns, so it's really a tough scene. And then
Exactly.
the other guy, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 2 bad games in a row. I am not worried yet, but if there's another bad game up against the Niners defense is battered, beaten. They're very unhealthy. So if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a bad spot here, maybe they go into the bye week 8 and they figure it out for Helaire, but I would start to panic if he has a bad game against the Niners. Do you feel the same way?
I don't know. That you told me that a running back on the Chiefs did poorly against San Francisco. It would take a whole lot of extra context to say, okay, I'm done with that running back. You know what I mean? Clyde Edwards-Helaire has had
Yeah,
a
I get that.
significant amount of receiving usage near the goal line. That is the golden snitch of fantasy opportunities, right? Getting receiving work near an opportunity to get a touchdown. That's the most valuable play in fantasy for a running back, and he's getting multiple opportunities where other running backs would be lucky to get one in a season. So to me, the offense he's attached to and the fact that he's still the number 1, the only thing that would get me off him is if they trade for Akers or McCaffrey, which I've heard rumblings, but I don't think is likely.
Okay. And then this goes kind of hand in hand with a question in the chat. Kyle Stoppa DFS says, should I pick up Pacheco and stash him in a 12-team league? I think I would rather stash McKinnon if he
Me
was
too.
available. Like Pacheco's kind of the 3. Pacheco's really biggest usage is when the Chiefs are just beating the shit out of a team, right? That's when you see Pacheco. That's just kind of my breakdown of it.
I feel the same way. Um, I am not a film grinder. I'm certainly a stat grinder in those stats versus film wars, but I have seen the film grinders I respect kind of talk about how Pacheco runs very, very hard, but he runs with no vision and no finesse. So he ends up running very hard into the line very often, which is what I've experienced just watching. And now we've got the bots out, which really means we've made it. Thank you for
Gotta
the
love
question,
to see it.
Kyle. I actually think I'd rather have McKinnon as well. James Conner is one where I don't think we're going to have any concerns about where to rank him because I don't think he's going to play. This is where he would be. This is where Eno Benjamin would be for me. Maybe even move Eno Benjamin to tier 2, assuming Connor sits on Thursday.
Yeah, I was big on Benjamin going into last week. I talked him up, banged the drum for him. Didn't necessarily not work out because he was an okay running back, but he wasn't like RB15 like I thought he could be. He was RB22. Should be in for a decent game, but I don't really see him doing anything crazy against the Saints. But
No one on
maybe Hopkins fixed the offense. You never know.
maybe. That'd be great. That'd be great. Tony Pollard is the last one I'll highlight here. I still think that you could make an argument that Tony Pollard is the better running back in yards per touch. Once again, top 10 in the NFL. Breakaway runs, top 20 in the NFL. He's just a good player who just doesn't get enough opportunity, and he's got a great matchup. I think maybe he'll be more of a DFS du jour player, but if you need a sneaky start at the running back position because you got bye weeks to deal with, you could do way, way worse than Tony Pollard. His ceiling is as high as not quite as Swift, but I still think top 10 potential is there.
Yeah, I agree with you. The problem is that they just keep running with Zeke, right? Like, there's really no way around it. McCarthy loves to run with Zeke. Jerry Jones clearly is behind it. I don't know, man. Like, I like Pollard significantly better, but there's no way that I would start him over Zeke at this point because of the matchup and because of what we've seen. They just like when they're on the goal line, they're giving it to Zeke. There's no way Pollard comes in. So it
Well,
just
it's one of
sucks.
the wonderful parts about working at a place like Stokastic that is so statistically based, so grounded in those statistical fundamentals. Because what we're doing is we're talking about the way we've seen these players utilize the nuances. We're trying to contextualize it for the domain knowledge of football that we feel like we have. But our rankings are going, but the math, and that's why Zeke
Exactly.
gets higher up there. We'll see what happens on Sunday. You want to shoot us over to tier 4 as we get into the ugly part of the running back position. I'm sorry, guys, because I know a lot of you have to start someone from this tier. I don't know why Taysom Hill ends up in our running back rankings, but it's almost mean. It's almost mean because this is about where he would be if he was a running back, which is where his usage profile, I guess, most closely relates to. Anybody stick out to you either positive or negatively in this group? I'm looking at Latavius Murray, still think he's underrated.
I think in some leagues you can only play Taysom Hill as a running back. I think that might be why. I've seen that before. People are like,
Mhm.
Taysom Hill isn't a tight end in my league. It's like, okay. And someone also left a comment today on one of my videos. I thought this was funny about how I say 2022 instead of 2022 and how that's incorrect and that I'm an idiot because of it. And I thought that
What?
was really funny.
That
But
that's something people really care about?
yeah,
That's a hill people are ready to go out
to
on?
die on. Yes, sir. But Robinson at 30 would be my favorite player in this grouping. I think Brian Robinson has earned the role of the running back one. Now, Antonio Gibson, it seemed like there was a fire lit under him in that game because when he got the ball, he looked much better than he's looked all year. But I still think B Rob's the guy. And then I do agree with you on Latavius Murray. I think he's the guy, but there's no way that I'm starting Latavius Murray in most situations.
Oh man, 15 opportunities, 4.4 yards per carry. Melvin Gordon in the locker room crying. What if Latavius Murray has earned his spot on this team? I don't know. We've seen
Not
weirder
good.
things. I don't think Hines is going to play. I think Hines'
No,
concussion was serious.
no, I don't think so either.
Yeah. Okay. Gosh, once you get to running back 35 and later, like, do you really feel comfortable starting Michael Carter the way that Brees Hall has looked on the field? Even Kareem Hunt, he's been so up and down. You need just kind of everything to break right for him. Same with Jamal Williams. We've seen it. We know the game script where it works, but can you really predict that? Those are tough for me. I'm just trying to find something I really like. It's really Eno Benjamin who doesn't belong there, assuming James Conner doesn't play.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Melvin Gordon is ranked at 39, Latavius at 34. I think there should be a wider gap in our stochastic league. I'm starting Latavius Murray this week. My whole team is on bye. Cooper Cup, Gabe Davis. It's a tough scene, but yeah. And then of course I
Yikes.
got the injury to Hollywood Brown, so I'm rolling out Noah Brown and Tyler Boyd as my wide receiver 1 and 2 in this week. So it's gonna be a good spot for whoever's playing against me. But I do think I'd have Latavius ranked pretty easily over Melvin Gordon, but I feel like we might just get absolutely hoodwinked this week.
Yeah.
And Gordon
Oh,
just
you think
gets
Gordon
more
like
work.
comes back? Oh, don't get me started on that. Would be the most 2022, excuse me,
Nathaniel Hackett.
2022 running back thing to ever happen. That Melvin Gordon just comes back second half of the season and becomes an absolute league winner. I think Jamal Williams would be a league winner before Melvin Gordon is at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, Jamal Williams is better when fucking Swift is healthy because I don't know what it is. It's like he just scores touchdowns. Like when Swift was out, he like couldn't get into the end zone. But then when Swift's there, he just walks right in there, moseys in. It's kind of funny.
Kind of funny in a terrible, terrible way. Let's get to some questions here. Oh, Kyle Stopa, after asking a question, says he's 0-6. Oh no. Well, that's why you got to get on that BetMGM bet. Get $200 free when any team scores a goal. You're one click away from winning back those league dues. Excuse me. Jason asks, full flex one, full PPR. Dobbs, B Rob, J Will Jr., Boyd, or Pierce.
Pierce.
That's
Pierce
easy.
for me, pretty
Here's
easily.
for me. We have him running back 11 this week, guys. Najee Stinky. I don't know. It just
I
made me
agree with
laugh.
that statement.
So it's very why say many words when few words do trick. Um,
Exactly, Kevin.
and we're good. See some faces here. Miso, glad you're hanging out. Okay, all right. You got tier 5, or you want to show the whole board as we round out the last few minutes of the show? Thanks everyone for hanging out. We got 55 in here. Oh yes. Okay, I want to talk about Rashad White. Rashad White is one of those players who quietly is actually having one of those best ball seasons that are working, even though Leonard Fournette isn't injured. Rashad White keeps getting usage. Rashad White outscored Taysom Hill last week. He's just kind of a player who, yes, he doesn't feel good you don't feel good starting him because of Leonard Fournette, but the way they're utilizing him as a secondary back, he can very easily get you 7 PPR points without doing anything special. If he falls into the end zone, you're looking at 12 or 13.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. He's just not a guy that I'm like forcing into my lineup. I know a
Of
lot
course
of
not.
people started to really panic about Leonard Fournette after that Chiefs game, but to me, it's really clear at this point that Fournette's the guy. They keep feeding him the ball. But yeah, if Fournette was to get hurt, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, you know what I'm saying? But Rashad White would be in a really good spot to smash this year.
Oh man, he could be an absolute league winner if something were to happen to old Lenny four quads. Uh if we go on to tier 5 here, we'll answer this question from BP Zay. Full PPR, Wilson or St. Brown in the flex? Or do you think St. Brown over Pittman for the wide receiver 2 slot? I do not. I do
Yeah,
love Amon Ra though, so I think you're starting him.
yeah, you got to play St. Brown. St. Brown is locked into a really good spot. He didn't have the best game going into the bye, but he was clearly banged up in that spot. So I think he smashes when he comes back here.
Nice. Appreciate the question, but the wrong Pierce. Flex one, full PPR, Dobbs, B Rob, J Will,
Alec,
Boyd, or Alec Pierce. Thank you
my
for
bad.
clarifying, Jason. We got you.
My bad. I think I might still go with Pierce. I like Dubs as well, but I think I'd go Alec Pierce.
Well, if you were asking me a week ago, I would have said Jeff Wilson Jr. for sure, to be honest with you. It's a little scarier because of the way we know how these Kyle Shanahan offenses are fickle with their running backs.
Yeah.
I think I still go with Jeff Wilson here. I think I do that.
Okay. That's fair. I think Jeff Wilson could have a good game as well. Alec Pierce has just been fed the ball.
ETN, Brian Robinson, Gallup, or Dubes or Dobbs, however you say it in the flex, a standard league.
That's tough. I think I go since it's standard. I think I just go Brian Robinson.
Oh, because of the touchdown upside, I would have said Gallup for the same reason, because at least you got this option, the touchdown upside against a bad Detroit team, and you still have some like 15, 20 point upside. But I respect the Robinson pick for sure. Here we are. We got all 50 for you as we recap the running back position. Final few minutes of the show. Lepri, anything stand out to you as we round things to a close here on this Wednesday morning?
Yeah, I think that Mike Boone could be the running back one in Denver as well. I mean, I understand why we have ranked 45. I wouldn't have him ranked as top 40, but this is just a fucking gloomy situation, right? You would have thought, Javonte Williams gets hurt. Oh, let's play Melvin Gordon. But now it's very confusing. It's incredibly confusing, and it's a tough scene. Nathaniel Hackett, I genuinely think, is going to end up getting fired. Like,
I think he may
very
be a
close to
one
getting
and
fired.
done as well. He may be done before the end of the year. And you know what? I'm seeing chat, and usually I close down chat right at this minute, Ron the Goat. But this is how we want to treat the people. Ron the Goat, you've been in here almost every single stream. You're always talking. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate all of you as we start to build out this community here at the Stokastic Fantasy Channel. I know this is a running back video. He knows what this is, but serious outlooks on Cortland Sutton rest of season, because I think this is worth talking about as we talk about Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, so my thoughts on Sutton is I still think he's the number one receiver there. I still think he's going to get targets. The question is, how healthy is Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson, his agents basically told Rappaport to report that, he's playing through pain. He's banged up, but he's going to keep playing. It's like, I fucking hate Russell Wilson. I'm going to be honest with you at this point. I'm so tired of him. But I think that really impacts Cortland Sutton. I think the fact that Nathaniel Hackett is a stooge impacts Cortland Sutton. Look, I'm going to keep playing Cortland
He's a
Sutton.
Scrooge.
I have him in our 14-team league. I'm going to play him. I'm
Yeah.
going to continue to play him. I have him in 12-team leagues. I'm playing him. But am I as confident as I was going into the season? No. I thought that this Broncos offense was going to be unstoppable. Turns out they're very stoppable, easily. So it's a very tough scene. What do you think about Sutton?
I think you have to play a player like Sutton who has unbelievable
Agreed.
athletics, has 10 catch, 100 air yard, 100 receiving yard upside, even on this offense. And I want to trade him the minute he has a 20-point game. The minute I can get rid of him and convince someone to get something more stable, I'm doing it. If I end up losing in the playoffs to a player like Cortland Sutton who has 3 bad weeks and then pops off against me, that's kind of the way the cookie crumbles, in my opinion, in fantasy football. But I think that consistency is going to be there. You will get ceiling, but I think the floor will be worse than you want to handle. I mean, we saw it last night. Big things need to change there, and it starts with Russell Wilson. I'm avoiding the Broncos players if I can get good value for them. I think that'll close things out. And of course, we've got a full wide receiver stream beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern, right back here on the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel. We've got a programming update, I should mention. I've got to cover some stuff over on the DFS side. So I will be spending all morning on the one that started it all, the Stokastic DFS channel. Make sure to like and subscribe over there. But if you want to keep things here for the wide receiver video, I know you do. We got Notorious Fantasy, Lepri himself holding it down, bringing in our special guest, Andy Francis. You've seen him on the show about 2 or 3 times already this season, and we're very happy to have him fill in. You two just busting each other for an hour and barely getting through any rankings is very, very fun for me to watch once I can. We really appreciate you guys hanging out. We would very much appreciate you guys taking advantage of that awesome offer from BetMGM. Look at the swag on Nick's hat. Take advantage of it. Hit the like button and subscribe button on the way out as well. And then follow us. He's Nick Lepri at Notorious FNTSY. My name is Matt Savoca. You can follow me at Draftaholic. I can't wait to see what you guys get up to tomorrow at wide receivers. And I will see you all back here on Friday. Until then, for Nick, I'm Matt. We'll see you guys later.